Hi, Jody. Are you ready? Oh, you're still muted.
Yep, I'm ready, and let's get started. Welcome, everyone. Appreciate everyone being here today.
Okay, let me. Yep. Okay. And we're recording.
Welcome, everyone. We're so glad to have you all here today. We're just going to give a few minutes for everyone to get into this session, and then we'll start in just about a minute. Welcome, everyone. I'm really glad to have you all here this morning. My name is Jody Shadduck-McNally, and I'm Larimer County Commissioner for District 3, but I serve the whole entire county. But I live in your district for District 3, the first woman to ever be elected to this seat. I'm so grateful for you all to join us today. This is our final community conversation for Loveland for this year, 2021, my first year in office. We're going to take parts of December off for staff and for others to have more time for holiday activities coming up starting in December. So we'll gear back up in January, the first month, and just look for things on the website or social media, or sign up for emails to get registered and be informed of future community conversations. I believe I'll have some special guests along with the Mayor Marsh in January, but I look forward to seeing you all. And I think in the meantime, until the pandemic is, the case rates and things are lowering down, we will probably be virtual for at least January, and we'll kind of reassess that as conditions go forward. I'm very, very, very excited and grateful for my guest today, Loveland Mayor Marsh, Jacki Marsh, and I want to congratulate you, Mayor Marsh, on your re-election this week for Mayor of Loveland for another 2 years. And just want to say I'm grateful for our partnership and that you attend these community conversations with me, because I think it's really important that we work together regionally and as partnerships as we work together to address the needs and concerns of our community. With that being said, we're going to go ahead and spend this hour just kind of having a kind of a review of things that have happened this year, and we're going to kind of do a year in review, and then we'll open up for a few questions at the end. And just thought we would kind of spend this time being grateful for all the things that we've been able to get accomplished and that have been going well for this month of November, and give gratitudes and thanks for some of the things that we're able to accomplish for our community. So Mayor Marsh, I'll turn it over for you for some opening remarks, and why don't you go ahead and give us your year in review.
Hi, Jody. I don't know that you can cover a whole year in 5 minutes here, but we did select Homeward Alliance as our partner in addressing the homeless. I hate to say situation, because it's more than that. These are, human beings that, for a variety of reasons don't have a roof over their head. So Homeward Alliance is gearing up and hiring people that will start with some outreach to identify the members of our community that don't have a home, and helping them to get into housing as well as supportive services when needed. In review, Catholic Charities is building an apartment complex near our courts and police that will be supportive housing. It will be aimed at people, that need additional services besides just a roof over their head. It'll have 24-hour management, and so that's a real positive for our community. Obviously, we're working with the county on ranch redevelopment and new amenities there that I'm greatly looking forward to. The water park that had kind of been on the back burner for a long time ended up, not happening. There was a window to access some state funds, state sales tax fund. So we have let go of that. It sounds like there's a private developer that may be wanting to continue that pursuit, but I'm not in the know on that one. Finances, the city finances ended up a lot better off. We started COVID in 2020 and we all kind of held our breath. 2020 was not as bad financially as we predicted, so good news there. And then in 2021, with the vaccine becoming available and numbers had dropped, so we reopened. We're actually having a very good year tax-wise in the city of Loveland for 2021. We just approved our 2022 budget, which is 388 million. Expected to spend, and as far as my memory goes, that's the largest budget we've ever had. The city has been in the works for a while on the first universally accessible playground. It'll be at Willow Bend, and that is moving forward. We're all very excited. It will be both open lands as well as an accessible playground that all children, all people will be able to enjoy. So that's moving forward. The plans to build a new terminal at the airport are moving forward. We received about 14 to 16 million under the CARES Act for our airport. Terminal design is literally in the works right now. We did see Avelo, a new airline, is now making flights every week to both Burbank, California and Las Vegas. Also, United Airlines opened up a direct bus line that you can book your tickets to fly out of DIA, but you can actually park at our regional airport and go through some of the screenings, the security screenings, and be able to just go straight to the airport for United at DIA. So that's exciting. Anybody driving around Loveland sees a lot of work on widening 34 and I-25. Sorry about the inconvenience, but we'll all be better off in the future. Some concerning news would be home prices. We saw the average home price, median home price go up 100,000, between 2020 and 2021. The median home price is now right around 500,000. Our median household income is around 80,000, so that puts most median households out of the ability to obtain a median price home. So that's very concerning and shows that we have a lot of work to do moving forward with affordable housing at all different levels. Seniors, families, singles, we have a lot of work to do in that area. We made a land purchase called Dakota Ridge. It's a piece of land on the west side of town that will allow people in the future, it's not quite all built yet, but people will be able to go from the open land space at Coyote Ridge, at Prairie Ridge, and all the way to 34. So it's a very forward-looking Parks and Rec and Open Lands Department that collaborates very well with the county. So we also work with land developers to assure that they give us easements so that even though there may be houses being built on the west side, that people will still be able to access trails that take them along north and south on the west side of town. There was a lot of effort put into a flavor ban, a tobacco flavor ban that did fail, but a lot of meetings happened on that issue. We are seeing 2 new counselors in this last election. Pat McFall and Dana Foley will be sworn in on Tuesday. Ward 4 race is still undetermined. The votes are so close. Right now, John Mallow leads Caitlin Wyrick by about 5 votes. If you'll recall, 2 years ago, Ward 2 Councilor Sampson ended up being determined by 3 votes. So we have yet to know who is going to be our Ward 4 representative, the second Ward 4 representative. So again, there's a lot more, but we don't have time for, to cover everything. So I thank you for the opportunity.
yes.
Thank you for the collaboration.
Well, Mayor Marsh, we have a little more time today because that was our main focus today, was just kind of having some more review. So if you have some more just comments you'd like to make in
Well-
general about the year, so go ahead and then I'll share and I'll piggyback off the Dakota.
Well, those are the things I had jotted down coming into today. I mean, you know, in general, I would say I'm very pleased with the community engagement we're seeing in Loveland. And I know that that doesn't mean it's all everybody rah, rah, happy, happy. But I think the residents in Loveland are very engaged, and they come to our city council meetings, whether they're by Zoom or in person, and they're letting us know what their thoughts are, what their concerns are, what they're happy with, what they're not happy with. I appreciate that kind of involvement from our public. So I personally think that that's a good thing. You know, I think people worry about what they call divisiveness on council. You know, I don't expect all of our council members to think the same way. I expect us to have different opinions. I think all voices need to be heard, and then and be respectful. You know, I was thinking back, you know, to you know, my past history was as a competitive runner from a fairly young age. And I ran for a club called the San Jose Cinder Gals, you know, a forward-thinking women's running group back in the 60s and 70s and continued actually beyond. One of my teammates was Francie LaRue, who later became Francie LaRue Smith. She ended up being a 5-time Olympian. Imagine all the races I ran against Francie where she was obviously going to be the winner. You know, she had talent and she worked hard. There were occasions where I would win the race, but more often than not, I was going to finish second to Francie's first. And yet we respected each other. We always held each other in high regard. You know, we worked together. We did a lot of training runs, just she and I, you know, in the hills around San Jose. And so working together with somebody that is going to end up beating me to the finish line is not new for me. And so I respect my fellow counselors' opinions, even though we don't always agree. And I ask for that respect in return. It doesn't have to be nasty. And I hope going forward in the next 2 years, we lose that nastiness and we just accept that we come from different places, but yet we do represent the different voices in Loveland. And I'm good with that. And I hope that the next 2 years we work well together. We all share our opinions. We all speak for the people of Loveland, and then in the end, majority rules. So I don't know, Jody. What do you think that over the last year and stuff that you know, we need to discuss here today?
Thank you, Mayor Marsh. I will just give a recap of the county. And I see where we have a question in the chat. So I will let you answer that question here in a moment.
All right, I got to open my chat.
Well, I'll let you answer it after I give my recap, but I just thought you'd like to read it so you can kind of think about your answer. So excuse me, everyone. Just a long week this week. It was a pretty busy week with a lot of 12 and 14-hour days, but I love my job. So I say the recap of the first of my year. First off is I love my job, and it has been everything I hoped for and more, even the challenges and the ups and downs. It's what I expected, and I'm very grateful for the opportunity to serve my community and serve you all as your commissioner. So thank you for the honor of working hard on your behalf. And I agree with Mayor Marsh. I really appreciate the community's engagement. We've had quite a bit of engagement, lots of emails and calls and messages, and you're right, not all of it is rah-rah and positive. And I appreciate everyone's engagement, though, because it's great to have other perspectives and listen to folks about their concerns. And I'm really grateful for that. And so it's one challenge for me has been trying to keep up with the hundreds of emails daily that trying to get back to everybody. So I want to say this, and I'll say this always, if I don't respond to some of the emails, when I get like on one topic, I get several hundred emails. I read them all, and I really want to just thank you all for the engagement, but I probably won't have time to spend all day answering hundreds of emails on a particular one topic. So I try to respond to a few, but I really appreciate everyone's engagement. And I do read them all, and I keep them and put them in a certain file on that topic, so I can go back and look at folks and make sure if I want to refer back to their concern, I can find it easily. And I want to just thank everyone for that opportunity to engage with them. Some things that we've done as a county is we've been really, really busy. And, unfortunately, we're still dealing with the pandemic as a county. We still have trying to recover from the impacts of COVID and the ongoing pandemic in many regions, whether it be the mask mandate, trying to help support our health department as they try to work with the hospitals and trying to support them as we're trying to find ICU bed space and hospital space the last 10 weeks. And I can say firsthand, I know that we're still, this next week, we're seeing some critical shortages of ICU bed space and space in the hospitals. So I want everybody to be safe out there and understand our hospitals are really at the strain point and stretched to their limits. So the other thing that we've been working on is recovering from the Cameron Peak wildfire. We've applied for many I can't think of the acronym, NCRS, and maybe Jalitza can put that in there, emergency watershed protection grants to help protect from the Cameron Peak wildfire and the burn scar getting into our water supply. And we've had great partnerships with the city of Greeley, city of Fort Collins, and other municipalities, our watershed coalitions, the U.S. Forest Service, the federal government, the state government, all working together to do what we can to protect our watersheds and help some of these landscapes recover from this historic 209,000 acre wildfire, which is unprecedented. And now we hold that first place in our state, which is not something I want our county to have a first place in, as the largest historic wildfire. And so we're continuing to work on those recovery efforts. We've had quite a bit of flash flooding. As you know, in July, we had, unfortunately, the Black Hollow incident. So I can say now I have a natural disaster under my belt, which was a challenge. We lost many souls in that tragedy and a whole family. And I've been up there a lot to view immediately after the debris flood and searching for victims. And I wasn't searching for victims, but up there during search and rescue time and going up there and watching the recovery of that area and trying to help get some resources in there. One thing I can say that the community coming up and during Public Lands Day, some volunteers for the National Parks and the Poudre Wilderness volunteers, the U.S. Forest Service and other folks went up on Public Lands Day and cleaned up a lot of the debris out of the river below and above that Black Hollow. And our Larimer County Conservation Corps was able to go in to the Poudre River because it is designated a wild and scenic river, and we were able to move this refrigerator and some other large debris out of the river because it doesn't, we can't take large equipment into the Poudre River and some of those sections because it's designated a wild and scenic river, and we can't just go in with equipment and pull it out. So the Conservation Corps actually walked in, grabbed it, and carried it out. And so lots of efforts like that, people coming together, getting onto private land and public lands and doing hazard tree removal, which is trees that were burnt that are in hazards of falling on people, public roadways, making things for access, a challenge. So we've done a lot of that work in partnerships with private and partners and nonprofits and landowners and and all the agencies I mentioned above. We've also done some work throughout the county partnering. A lot of it was done through some other grants that the city of Greeley and Fort Collins did, the Poudre River. We had some of it done up here, the Big Thompson around Glen Haven, where they did what they called aerial mulching, which is, helicopter taking wood mulch and spreading it over the burn scar. With 209,000 acres, though, we only probably got about 11,000 acres done. And so there's just, we had to prioritize the areas of recovery. And so those areas in that plan, you can see on our website for risk. And I see Julitza put that in as a risk assessment overview. So thank you, Julitza. So that is really important to look at and know that we're working as fast as we can. This week I did take a fire shed tour. I've taken a lot of tours throughout the burn scar with Senator Bennett, the governor, Congressman Neguse, the U.S. Secretary of Agriculture, and folks came and toured the burn scar, and we've been working very hard to get federal and state money into this area, and they've been great partners, and we've received some grants to help with the cost because it is expensive. And when on that note, as Jacki talked about the budget, we're approving our budget next week. Our budget, I don't know the exact number, but I believe it's around $687 million. Very large budget. And in that, we have taken out and put some money into reserves for natural disasters. It's not going to be if, but when, but after 2 years of natural disasters happening back to back, we know we have to kind of save for that. So we have funds on hand to immediately respond for those disasters. I believe we've seen some amounts in like after the floods and stuff, and even with the Black Hollow in the millions of dollars that we can't, we have to be able to move fast to help victims and help with recovery. And sometimes some of our federal partners, it takes a little while to get that money going. Matter of fact, there's one project we're still finishing up on County Road 44H, where it's still money coming from FEMA to fix some of the flooding from 2013. And then the Cameron Peak fire, and that air money or flooding came through and kind of undid some of that. So we're working on getting that recovered. Now we have a lot of flash flooding up the canyon in Glen Haven and Streamside, and we're working with our partners there. Is that intersection of private landowners and public access roads. It's very complicated about how much we can do on private lands, but we're trying to bring as many private partners in and nonprofits into this Larimer County Recovery Collaborative that help landowners and folks access resources, and it's a great effort. So with that Recovery Collaborative, it started with the pandemic, bringing folks together across the county through nonprofits, Black, Indigenous, people of color groups. We have business chambers, organizations, municipalities, all of them in the collaborative working on how we talk about the recovery from COVID. And also we've tied in now some of this recovery efforts with the flood and partnering with the Office of Emergency Management, which is really powerful. And they've been really great to help us do assessments on what is needed to help us recover from this fire and from the pandemic. So we have opened our survey. We still have a Larimer County Recoverers survey that is available through November 7th. And then we're going to close that and use that information to help guide us as we're still tweaking the budget going forward. So maybe Julissa can put that in the chat too, the survey for if you haven't taken it. So please, we love to have your input. We did open our first ever Larimer County Office of Emergency Management office in Johnstown, which is Larimer County over by Shields. It's just south of Shields, and it's a great partnership with the city of Loveland and the LETA, the Larimer Emergency Telephone Authority. And we have an office in that building and in the bottom, and it is a great center and helps us partner with the city of Loveland. I think their offices are there as well. And so it's a command center with internet and rooms for all, like when we had the Black Hollow, actually, we pretty much opened it right during Black Hollow, and we were able to bring people together from the state into FEMA and have everybody in the same room. And we have these TVs, and we have internet connections that aren't disrupted, and it's there in that central location so everyone can get together and see what's happening and work together as we work through these emergencies that we have. So that's a really great thing to share, and it's a great partnership with that with Loveland and the LEDA group. So really grateful for that. We have some land use code changes. We changed some land use code changes in the Essex Valley and also in Larimer County, keeping some commercial out of residential neighborhoods and changing that in our open and forestry areas. So that was a big change. We've also worked on our sign use code. We're finishing up our phase 2 codes for our land use code as a result of our new comprehensive plan. And so that's really exciting. Some changes in things for backyard chickens in there and farm stands, campgrounds, things like that. We're almost finished with construction. We started construction and finishing on our newest campground by Carter Lake. It's called Skyview, and it will be an ADA accessible campground and also be for kind of group families to be able to rent space, and they can park RVs or have campsites, and it's kind of flat and accessible for folks. And it's a kind of a state-of-art campground, so you can go check that out. We're very excited about that. You can go on the website on Department of Natural Resources to share that and see that progress, but it should be open, I believe, for next year. We also, as Mayor Marsh talked about, partnering with Dakota Ridge and helping provide some money for that resource to help with buying that property to help make those connections going forward. And so that's really important. We have continued those partnerships with the city of Loveland and other partners. We have also bought a very large ranch up in the northern part of the county to buffer around our Red Mountain open space and connect these open spaces and conservation easements. And because of that work and other work we've done for the second year in a row, Larimer County Department of Natural Resources has won the Starburst Award through the Great Outdoors Colorado for its work on preserving open spaces and open lands. And so I'm really proud of that and glad that we're leading the way in that area. We also were progressing on a behavioral health services, and we passed that initiative in 2018. We won a National Council on Mental Wellbeing organizational award that was presented to us last month. So we're getting national recognition for the work we're doing with our grants, behavioral health grants that we have been handing out the last 3 years. We handed out $2.5 million last month for grant recipients to do work next year in that area with a focus on youth this next year. And we will be breaking ground on that center in just a couple, I think the first week of December. So if you drive by, you'll see some great progress there. Boy, I can talk. Oh, we have worked on upgrading our, the state has oil and gas regulations, and they changed and raised their level. And then we updated our oil and gas regs and took a few of those above and beyond to help protect the health, safety, and welfare of our residents. Let's see what else. I went to DC as one of our fallen rangers from the Department of Natural Resources was honored by being placed on the National Memorial, and I went and supported the staff and the family in October and attended the National Fallen Peace Officer Memorial, and grateful to Congressman Neguse. He flew a flag over the Capitol in honor of that ranger, and we were able to present that and surprise his family and mom with that flag. And that was an honor for me to attend. And I was appointed to the Governor's Council, Forest Health Council. I'm very honored and super excited and proud to be appointed to that Forest Health Council. Only 4 commissioners are appointed to that council. And so I will be representing Larimer County and our region for forest health as we work on trying to protect our resources in forests and try to mitigate for future wildfires and see what we can do to work as a state for more proactive activities. And yeah, I could talk, as you said, Mayor, lots more things happening, but very proud of those, some of those accomplishments. And when you look back and you think of, wow, some days you think, wow, are we getting anything done? But then we go back and review, we're like, wow, we got a lot done. Oh, and one other big thing. We approved our newest board and commission as Board of County Commissioners, our equity, diversity, and inclusion board, which will start. We are up, I don't know if the applications are up yet. Lisa, you'll have to let me know if that's up there, but we will be presenting a regional equity, diversity and inclusion board. And we're very excited. We wanted to do that, but we let the Larimer County Collaborative and the BIPOC community kind of give us their feedback and how they thought that should be structured and had that conversation. And that group was led by Dr. Leslie Brooks and Dr. Sarita Reddy, who actually lives in Loveland. So I'm really glad we had some geographic diversity there as well. And we will be starting that new boarding commission next year. So that's another big move for the county. And one more big thing is we started our climate change stakeholder group, and we'll be moving forward with a regional climate framework and strategic plan as a climate document for our county. And we really are engaging our partners throughout the entire county to work with us together on that plan. So that's another big change for our county. And we had that first stakeholder group this week, and the city of Loveland had, I think, a couple of folks at that table. So thank you, Mayor Marsh, for that engagement. And with that, we'll open it for questions. So
Jody,
yeah.
Let me go back because Fred Garcia had a question regarding the budget for our Human Services Board. Fred, would you please send that to me at my city email? It's jacki.marsh@cityofloveland.org. Our budget is hundreds of pages. Most of the departments that saw cuts in the 2020 budget because of COVID asked to have those cuts, reinstated for the next budget, so it was, 2021 budget saw the cuts and they've asked to have them but I'm not sure specifically if that's 65,000 or if it was additional monies. That would be Allison Haid asking for those. So if you'll send me that email, I will get you an answer on the specific 65,000. But most departments were able to add back in what they had previously cut for COVID. Most department heads seemed pretty pleased with what they were getting. Mark Jackson in our transportation, in our public services said it's the first time in his 3 years at the city of Loveland that he actually has some funds to work with. So I'd be surprised if Allison didn't put that back in. Jody prompted some thoughts. We broke ground on Chimney Hollow, a reservoir that will be built up near Carter Lake, and which prompted another thought that I had. Platte River Power Authority a week or so was our last meeting, and Jason, our director of Platte River Power Authority, indicated that natural gas prices are spiking right now, coal prices are spiking, and hydro prices are spiking. And we'll see those price increases coming, to all of our communities, the 4 communities that own Platte River Power Authority. Hydro is of, additional concern because it's spiking because the water levels are so low. Platte River is having to reduce its hydro power by 30%, as well as seeing a price increase of over 12%. There's concern that by 2023, we may not be able to pull hydropower at all if the drought continues and water levels continue to drop. So Jody, also the city found monies to rebuild Fire Station 3, which is kind of on the southwest part of town. It's in very poor shape, so we'll be building a new fire station. And then we broke ground on Fire Station 10, which is actually located in Johnstown near Shills. But we're kind of a regional, power. We work with Johnstown, and their property owners contribute funds for that fire station. We hired a new fire chief, Tim, and I cannot remember his last name. And Congressman Neguse he asked for and received $1 million. It will be a grant to our Polium community building on Cleveland. So we're thank Congressman Neguse for that. And we did establish a trust commission and with 16 members and 2 alternates to kind of look into how to rebuild trust in Loveland community and in our, not only our police station, but throughout our city. So thanks for tricking those thoughts that I also wanted to report on. So Fred, send me that email and I'll get you the answer on the 65,000.
Great, thanks, Mayor Marsh. And I wanted to say thanks to Fred for his service on the Human Services Commission. I served on that for Loveland Services Commission for 4 years, and grateful we have some great folks still serving on that. They do great work. So I see Zeke had some questions, and well, first Fred first, and then Zeke, I will answer your question. And boy, Zeke, you got some great questions. I'm glad you're asking those. So Fred, yes, you are correct. The director of our community health is and ourselves as well, and the Board of Health are receiving lots of public concerns and emails. And we, as you know, we probably had a rally earlier this week with about 500 people in Fort Collins next to the Board of Health. And we, you know, I think people forget the system is so that we don't have political influence on the Board of Health, and they can focus on doing their jobs with data and science. Is that we don't directly have, we don't fire or hire the health director. We appoint the Board of Health for 5 years terms, and then they are on there, and if they stay on there for the 5 years, unless they do, we can't remove them unless they have some really egregious behavior. And then those folks hire and oversee the health director. And so they have had lots of very robust and largely attended meetings with lots of public comment. I think they had 150 people one night making public comment. And so those folks have been expressing, you know, their concerns about the mask mandate. I'll say this very clearly so that people understand, because there's been a lot of misinformation and disinformation regarding the vaccine verification program. It was an idea that never started, and it's not going forward at this point today. It is where some businesses, with the mask mandate that went into play, there's some businesses like the theaters or a theater venue where they were requiring vaccine verification to attend their events. And so those folks already had that in place as a private business. And we wanted to make sure that the mask mandate, or the health director wanted to make sure the mask mandate didn't keep those folks from continuing forward with their business practices. That is not going forward. That's not happening. That is should not even be on the website anymore. So that is, we're waiting to hear back from the business committee about what they would like to see. So that's just to make sure we understand that never went forward. That was only being discussed, and that's not happening. So if you have further questions about that, feel free to email me. Secondly, how do we support our public health directors and the Board of Health? Just please just email them, call them, give them a positive message, let them know that you support their actions. And as we go forward, just make sure you're telling your friends or on social media or sending us emails to the health director or the Board of Health or the commissioners to let us know that you do support the actions as we try to navigate through this latest surge of the pandemic. And what this is the Delta variant, which is a lot more contagious and is really seems to be a lot more virulent and causing a lot more deaths of those unvaccinated. And I can go into all those numbers, but I would rather just focus on lots of other data today and talk things. And if you want to, I can send you those numbers. We have that dashboard going forward. So those are a lot of those concerns that people have. So I would say how to support them is just to publicly be a little more vocal about your support. So supporting him doing his job is just, you know, also asking businesses and the hospitals to speak up, saying they, you know, that they're supportive of the actions that we're trying to take to help our community navigate this latest crisis. So, so with that, I go to Zeke's number, our question. Thank you, Zeke, for the question. Oh, Jackie, did you want to say something?
Well, yeah, I was just going to address some of Zeke's questions on affordable housing, but what do you want to
Oh,
address your
yeah,
portion of that?
let me do that first. So Zeke, why we're not reopening the ranch, we did not open the ranch. That was the state that took money and through the federal government they leased space at the ranch to open that up. To have that emergency center. They had one, I believe, in the Denver area, and they did one in our ranch complex. So that is not a decision that we can make as a county because we don't have the resources to, it is a lot of money. We don't have the resources to do that as a county, but it's something we have been asking about bed space and capacity and we've been asking a lot of those questions. And I know our health director and others have been having those hard conversations as well. And about the antibody question and clinics, I do not have any information on that. I know that question's been being asked, and I would probably direct you to the health director for his email. But if you don't feel comfortable with that, you can go ahead and email me, and I can ask those questions and try to get back to you on that. So if you want to, Jaleesa, could you put my email in the chat, and people are welcome to email me, and then I can try to get you that information and ask if we're looking at that. I have been in conversations where that has been brought up, and I know that is a discussion. But as I say, as county commissioners, we talk and ask questions and try to advocate for things, but we're not the ones making those public health orders or public health decisions because of this process and system we have in place to make sure that public health focuses on science and data and is able to do their jobs. So affordable housing. Yes, and that is, you are so correct, Zeke, I'll talk about what the county is doing. And, but you are absolutely correct, Zeke, that this is a crisis here in our county, statewide, nationwide, and also in rural areas as well as, city of Loveland. Actually, I spent most of the day yesterday up in Estes Park on a affordable attainable housing tour with the town of Estes Park and their housing authority, and they showed us some of their new projects that we're able just to accomplish, which are amazing and beautiful and really providing some much needed workforce housing. And they also have some attainable housing, but they're out of land and they're out of space and out of money, and so they're looking for some solutions and outside the box thinking. So we are definitely trying to address this through land use code changes, looking at mobile home parks. We created a mobile home park zone to protect some of those mobile home parks, and that's area of affordable housing, because that's been a trend happening all over our state where outside capital groups and investors have been coming in and buying mobile home parks from outside of our state even, and then coming in and buying these, and some of them, they have been raising the rents and making some changes, and so that is a concern. So we've been trying to do some land use code changes and addressing that. We did a housing needs assessment, and we hired a housing coordinator who was working on that, and we are trying to look at land use code changes that we can help. We just changed accessory dwelling code changes to allow accessory dwellings for folks to have built for older parents and caregivers and things like that. We're also looking at what we can do with the price of water, and we're convening a water strategy planning as a region with our partners, because we're not a utility provider with water, but we were trying to partner with our partners who are, and what we need to do to look at that, because water is also impacting. And then just construction costs it's going to be really hard to build our way out of this because the construction costs are so expensive. So we're thinking outside the box about going back and looking at what other projects we can go back to current development or current neighborhoods and how we can change densities. And we're working with all our municipal partners and looking at how we can address that. And there's a lot of conversations happening right now. So by bringing staff to be able to focus on this capacity, changing land use codes, as you know, I have another housing conversation, a roundtable with the City of Fort Collins in the chamber on Tuesday, and bringing staff with me on that. So we're doing a lot of work in that area. And one other thing I forgot to mention, I'm the strategic goal planner for strategic goal number 1. And we went for a federal grant with the city of Loveland and city of Fort Collins, and we're really hopeful about getting that grant, but we're going to try and make our community our entire county, the most connected community with broadband in the entire state, if not more. And we're trying to build that middle mile or backbone and not be a utility provider, but provide the infrastructure. And we just partnered with Poudre REA with them with their electrical service to be able to provide broadband through their utility lines. And so that's been a big partnership, and that's already getting going and started. And so that's really an area in the state that we're leading. And it would be a great equity piece as well to help provide internet for those who don't have it in our underserved areas. So I hope that helps. Marsh, I know you guys have some specific projects if you'd like to share about that.
Yeah, and I've got an unstable internet, so we'll see. We'll see how well anybody can hear. So one of the major causes of the unaffordable housing is that there's very little housing options. There's a shortage of housing for sale. At one point this summer when I was looking, it was like 46 homes were available to purchase. So you end up in kind of a war of people making offers that are above even the asking price, and in some cases significantly above the housing prices. So we need to create more housing, and it needs to be able to be a variety of housing. You've got seniors that are living in homes that are bigger than they need. Their families no longer live there. Maybe a spouse passed away, but there's nothing desirable for them to move into. So you have to create housing for seniors. You need to have more dense housing along our corridors, because the second biggest price for somebody is transportation. Well, if your bus routes are along your corridors, having denser multi-story, multi-family housing along your corridors saves people in two ways. They can, do public transit as well as have a lower priced housing. Things that the city has done. We've decreased the lot size that you need, so that reduced the cost of building a house. We've reduced the amount of water we require a builder to pay for, because we found with all of the water efficient appliances people are using these days, we were we were making them pay for more water up front than they needed. We've reduced the price of water that we charge developers when they buy water from the city. We've allowed them to pay for water at different phases of the of the building project. They can pay up front. They can pay along the way. We've done a lot of things to make it easier for people to build in Loveland. We're trying and we've also done more affordable housing as far as the Edge and some of the developments, the Grace project southwest of town here. We're doing an experiment with Aspen Homes where we are giving them credits for all their homes they're building, and then 1/4 of those, 1 out of every 4 homes, will meet the affordable housing, I don't know, metrics, I guess, where either 60-80% average area income or less will be able to afford their homes. So Aspen Homes in Wilson Commons is every 4th home. They're 3-bedroom home, 2-bath, 2-car garage, front yard, backyard, smaller. They're able to build homes in the range of $245,000 to $275,000. That is currently in the affordable range, I'd say. So it's an experiment right now. They're currently being built. If that works out, I would say you'll see more of those. We need to probably look at manufactured homes. We need to think out of the box with this problem. The city increased the number of unrelated people that can share a household up to about 7 now. At this point, for 7, you have to have a neighborhood meeting, and not a neighborhood meeting, but a review by our planning department to make sure there's adequate on-site parking, so that you're not taking up all the street parking. But that's another solution for affordable housing, and is that you combine people living in a household. I think there's more to be done. Besides just the edge and things like that, because you do have to have regular people like firefighters and teachers, police officers, city employees, our healthcare workers need to be able to find housing in Loveland. And 500,000 is pretty unattainable. So I think it's going to be a variety of housing solutions, more multifamily, more duplex, fourplex, eightplexes, smaller houses. We changed our code for ADUs, accessory dwelling units. They can be on smaller lots. We've tried to open the door and made it easier for people to build affordable housing, as well as we always partner with Habitat for Humanity and the Loveland Housing Authority on their projects. Okay, that's me. Back to you, Jody.
And I'll answer one other thing that we're doing is we did receive these ARPA funds from the federal government, and we have spent and allocated some of that. Some of that has to go into our criminal justice system because we have trying to keep folks in our programs, community correction programs, and also in the jail to help kind of suppress the COVID virus inside the jails. And we're actually doing a better job than pretty much everyone in the state at this point, I believe. And it takes extra funds for mitigation and for that work. And so those are some of the things we're doing with that, but we're also have a housing bucket with that ARPA funds to see what we can do to apply some of that, because we do feel like COVID impacted the housing market. But it is something that is all hands on deck with private partners, nonprofits, and all of the municipalities and agencies in the state. And we're trying to address this. And like Mayor Marsh shared, it's out of the box thinking and what we can do, because I don't think we can build out of it quickly because of construction costs. And it takes time to build out quickly. So we're looking at other solutions, as we said, changing these land use codes and looking at what we can do with accessory dwellings. And as Mayor Marsh talked about, the cost of water. And we also did change our definitions of how many can live in a home and stuff in the county. And so that's another thing we've been also working on. So we also were able to go for a grant with the federal government. And we received one of the first ones beginning of the year, the emergency assistance rental grant, and that was also used for utilities. And actually we were recognized in the paper recently being one of the states or counties leading the state and getting that money out into folks' hands. And now we're going to use the next wave of that grant money to help folks stay housed and help them find, avenues to be able to find, sustainable model, keep them housed. So, but how we can help our workforce housing with firefighters, teachers, really essential workers for our community. It would be great if they could live in our community and not have to drive long distances to get home, which it increases our transportation challenges currently. And also that's just not a really good quality of life for some of those workers to have these long commutes. And so we're also looking at how we can partner regionally just to see what we can do in all areas of the county to address this for our workforce. So we're talking with Wellington, we're seeing this in Wellington and Berthoud and Fort Collins for sure. And I wish I had there was one magic answer, but it's going to be a multi-pronged approach. We're also trying to deal with childcare because childcare is also putting a squeeze on people's budgets by paying as much every month for childcare as you are for your mortgage. It's getting to be really pricing people where they can't afford quality childcare. So that's another thing that we're looking at to kind of help folks be able to afford to be able to work where they want to live where they work in those kinds of areas. I know some private employers are looking at childcare and some housing solutions. CSU, I believe, opened an area that they're built for housing for their workers. And we're looking at that model as well. And so is Estes Park. I think yesterday the number they used in Estes Park was $760,000 was the median home price. And they're all going above offering, asking price, and the market or the amount of homes that are for sale up there are very small. And so I think there was the houses for sale was half of how many realtors there are in Estes Park. There's only there's 75 realtors and there's only like 30 houses for sale right now. And so that just tells you that's kind of significant of it shows what that significant problem this is in that area. And it's, I believe it's else everywhere in the county. So with that, Zeke, great questions. Really appreciate asking those. And I hope you'll keep asking them. And I hope you'll email me. I'd like to ask, find out some answers to your questions about the antibiotic clinics. So I would love to get back to you on that. And any other questions? And if someone wants to raise your hand, we can always move you up to panelists so you can ask your question in person. Anybody, Doug, anybody? Well, we're right about 10 o'clock and I just can't say how thrilled I am that you all joined us this morning. Oh, there's a hand. Who's got the hand? Zeke. All right, Zeke. Would you like to raise, so Julissa, can you move him up to panelist and we'll let him ask his question in person. And Zeke, can you unmute yourself?
Yep. Can you hear me?
Yeah, thank you for raising your hand.
Absolutely. I'm happy to listen. I'm glad that you guys are coming up with some real solutions. It feels like with every solution, there's another problem. Everything is kind of like a trade-off, I think, in the situation that we're in. And I basically, what I'm wondering is you basically explained everything with the housing and whatnot. And I think that's a really hard issue to tackle. Things that I'm just thinking of and ideas that come to mind when you mention some of that stuff is I'm going as simple as, and this may be completely out of line, but as simple as like how hunting licenses are drawn, right? So if I go out of state and I try to get a hunting license from Wyoming, there's a very slim chance that I get it. But if I do get it, I can go hunt, blah, blah, blah. I pay an increased rate. What I'm seeing is that a lot of the people that are coming from out of state actually have that money, maybe from California or Texas or somewhere else. And they have that capital and they're pumping it into our economy, which is good. But in the same sense, is there a way that we can give our own towns or own county priority over somebody that's coming out of state to buy a home? Right now, I know, and I'm not exactly sure how the Metro tax works, but I think it's just something that gives money back to, you know, the investor. And it's something that these people that are buying these homes with Metro tax pay monthly or annually. And so I'm wondering if there's any way where there can be some type of draw system, because we have such limited homes available where you know priority can be allocated to at least our local residents.
Well, Zeke, you know, I think that's an interesting and novel idea, and thanks for bringing that up. With private home sales, I don't know if we can ever do that where we say you can only sell to someone locally, but I can say there is a housing division up in Estes Park that's a mixture of with the housing authority and some affordable and attainable housing, and that's focused on their, it's kind of a new area. It's up off of Dry Gulch Road, and it basically, the developer is a local person, and they are selling some of these modestly priced condominiums. I think they start at $290, which is really affordable. And for Estes Park, it sounds very unaffordable in other areas, but for Estes Park, it's very affordable. And they require that some of those homes are only sold to folks who work 30 hours or more in the Estes Valley school district boundaries of the Estes Valley. And so that is one region, that one idea, and I got to tour that yesterday, and that was an idea I was going to bring back and explore. And they're also doing that with another project that's going to be developed and built along Highway 7 heading out of Estes. Actually, it's still in Estes, and they're actually building a childcare center attached to the apartment buildings. And that one also, it's a private investment firm that's focused on workforce housing for rural mountain communities like Estes. And they are building homes, and that will also have some kind of you can qualify with certain percentage of area medium income. And that I thought that was very unique. And I asked a lot of questions on how they're providing the childcare and attach that building to those to their residences so that they can kind of have that for working families having that available as well. So those are some of the things I do know that maybe are kind of along the idea you have, but I don't know if we can draw, like you said, like a license. I think that's a unique idea. I haven't heard that before, but we do know that some of these developments that have investments from our government agencies that are able to say, well, this is for those folks who work in the school district, or and they still have to pay and or rent, but it's for those folks who are actually working in the area. Does that help a little bit?
Yeah, it does. It really does. And it's just more or less an idea. My second question, if I can, is just going back to the issue around masks, and it also encompasses Tom Gonzalez as well. What I've been seeing is, just like a resident, is I noticed that the Department of Health and everybody on the Board of Health, what happens is they are looking at the data and the science, and I think they're looking at it objectively, as opposed to somebody that's living everyday life, right? Like, you guys have to look at ICU beds, and you have to look and see, how full they are. Now, I completely understand that, but what I worry about is that we're just going to be in this cycle. And it feels like last year, because I'm a business owner in Larimer County, and from 2020, I'll tell you, as soon as they started announcing there was an emergency, and I do delivery of food to people's houses, and they thought that everybody thought that I'd be increasing my sales and I would do good through the pandemic. Well, if people are laid off and there's a scare in the public, we just dropped. And it's been, let me tell you, from 2020 up until now, horrible. And it puts a strain on my family, everybody around me. And so all I see and what I'm staring down is this tunnel of cycle where now we're bringing masks. And, last year in October, there was like 3 deaths. In December, there was 71, and we had over 50% reduced capacity in those months. Like, we had the most restrictive requirements of our community. And in December, we still peaked. And so what I'm thinking is the same thing is going to happen, where November comes around and we just start increasing our death count within the county. And I don't know how to combat it. You guys are in charge of that. I have different suggestions that, I'm not a doctor. So I think that my suggestions and just opinion is outweighed by somebody that is a doctor. But we're just staring down this tunnel, and what I fear is that it's going to be cyclical to the point where we're never going to get out. Like, I just don't see an end in sight. And so what I'm wondering from you is, can you speak to where we can see an end in sight with everything that's happening, and when we can kind of draw a line in the sand as a community and just say, hey, like, we're doing everything we can, but we got to stop here because our community is suffering too much from mandates.
I appreciate you speaking up, Zeke, and thank you for sharing your perspective. And I think it's really important that we hear from folks like you, especially with a small business owner, how this is impacting you. And I appreciate, I'm really glad you came today and shared your perspective, because it's really important that we hear from folks like you. Well, first, I'd like to say is, the Department of Health, on top of dealing with the pandemic, they're dealing with restaurant inspections and septic tanks and air quality. And so they're really strained as well. And we are partnering with the Economic and Workforce Development Center, which has been partnering us with like the Level Up program and things. So I really want to encourage you, if Jalitza, you can put Jacob Castillo's email into the chat, to reach out to him. There might be some grants or some opportunities with some programs and things that we have that have come down through the pandemic. And I want to make sure you're connected and have all the resources you can to help support your business and your family. So I'd like to do that first off. Secondly, I agree with you. My family works in healthcare and is on the front line in the ICUs and ERs. So I understand. We're all wishing this would end. It's impacting our children's health, our mental health, our businesses. We're all just ready to get back to kind of normal life, but I'm not sure if we're ever going to be back to normal. I think it's a new normal, and we're going to have new ways of doing things. As we're trying to get people vaccinated, that was the important thing. If we could get to that level of herd immunity and be able to have the vaccine to help with the spread. But when the game changer this past year was the Delta variant that emerged and was a mutated variant of the original coronavirus. And we've been learning so much, but unfortunately, we just lose ground that way so fast. And so I do think there's an end in sight. Research is happening very quickly across the planet and across in our communities. We have this new Pfizer pill that you can take that has shown promising results that if you do get sick, you're not going to, it reduces the severity of complications. And I think there's a lot of that's moving quickly. So I do think there is an end in sight. Will this coronavirus be eradicated and never be coming back around? I'm not so sure. I think that will be kind of like the flu, something we're going to have a vaccine every year, just like we take our flu shots, our shingle shots, or older populations need to have pneumonia shots just to protect their health. But I do agree with you, the capacity issues and some of the restrictions that were done, which we had to do, trying to stay ahead of this for our hospital capacities. That was really hard on restaurants having the capacity. And that's one reason we tried not to have that this time. And so I think that's really important going forward, that I think the health department looked at that, trying not to have a capacity restriction this time. So I hear you, and I'm really glad you shared that. And so I really would say, especially if you are looking for some resources, talk to Jacob and see what kind of grants or programs are available to help support you in your business. And I say that it is a weekly, daily conversation. We're talking with hospitals, business owners, chambers, nonprofits, the mayor and I talk about this daily, weekly. I'm talking with all kinds of electeds about what we can do together. I'm talking at a state and federal level about what are we trying to do to, get this ended and get back our businesses and folks back to operating as normal as possible. So I hope that helps. I wish I had the magic wand to say this is over. We all are ready for it to be over. But in the meantime, we're just working as hard as we can to mitigate the consequences and the ripple effects from this pandemic. And I know that's not quite the answer you probably hope for, but I kind of do see an end in sight as science is racing to catch up and kind of defeat this pandemic.
Yeah, and I actually was in touch with, I've been in touch with a few people in Loveland and in Fort Collins about the grants. A lot of the grants limit businesses that have accepted PPP loans. I've accepted those PPP loans, and everybody thought that these were good. You know what? Can I put my video on?
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
Here I am. You have a name with a face. So those PPP loans that we received, what happened is we had the money to be able to pay our employees. But the problem with PPP loans, and they were great, right? I'm not saying that I didn't appreciate that, is that they negate you from other grants. And for one, when your sales go like this and they go down because of the pandemic, and you still have to maintain your operating expenses, what happens to you as a business? For one, the business owner gets paid a lot less, right? So with the amount of money that we lost, and now how much I had to pay myself, literally in 2020, I was living in poverty level of income. And so when that happens, those PPP loans are great, but they're more so for employees, right? Like you could, put yourself on payroll, but you don't want to be accepting a PPP loan. And then, let's say it's $20,000 and then you give yourself a $10,000 bonus, right? So you stay the same, but if sales go down, you don't want to just pay yourself the same because that PPP loan is going to be wiped out quicker. So it was good, and it had some downfalls to it. And that's kind of what has negated me from, I think I applied to maybe 2 or 3 different grants, one within the county and one directly from the Loveland Economic Recovery Fund or something like that. I forget what it was called. But just so that you guys know, like this is a typical like blue collar, kind of middle class business owner, where I'm looking at the city and the county, and I feel like these mandates are just, it's hard because like you have to take a stance on it, and you can't really toe like the middle line with people, because people are like, some people want you to wear a mask wherever you go, and they won't even like let you in if you don't have one on. And what it's doing is just causing this public friction, and that's kind of what I see every day. And I just want to be able to move on. I want to be able to get our economy back to normal. That's the biggest thing. But just so that you know about how the PPP loans worked and how they've worked against us and with us in the economy.
And I'm really glad you shared that. I did know that we're having some challenges, so I'm really glad you brought that back up again to remind me that that is still happening. And so I don't know if you reached out to Jacob Castillo, but I would call him directly and just tell him you talked to me. We're here at this conversation. I was with him yesterday at the Workforce Housing in Estes, and just his name and numbers in the chat there, and just say, hey, I asked you to call him, and just see what, there might be something else that we haven't thought of. So just ask him that I said, just for you to email and ask him who can you connect with, what can we do to support you? So, because you never know, there might be something we hadn't thought about. And I don't know, Mayor, if you have any connections or resources you can connect with him in Loveland, but I'm really glad that you came today. And I hear you. I wish, I agree with you. This mask mandate has caused a lot of friction, and we're doing our best, and we're reevaluating the conditions right now and looking at what we can go forward. But again, it's the public health order, the public health director that, put that in place so he can base it on the science and not us political pressure telling him what to do. But he does give us, updates and stuff. And I know we're kind of, looking at the conditions currently. A lot of the variables that we wanted to meet before we took off the mask mandate, we've met a couple of those, but some of them are going to get worse. And we're really worried about this next week with the conditions in the hospital bed capacity across the state. And so fingers crossed this week we hold steady, because that's going to be really important going forward. Mary, did you have any other resources you might want to connect? And may I call you Zeke? Is that okay?
Oh, yeah.
Okay,
Sure.
cool.
Well, Zeke, I would ask you to include me on the email. And again, it's JACKI.Marsh, MARSH @cityofloveland.org. And I will forward that to the rest of City Council, as well as our city manager and our economic development department. And I might even include Congressman Neguse. What you're talking about are some unintended consequences of receiving, the PPE loans. And we all need to be aware of that, because they should not, inhibit your ability to get help in other ways.
Yeah.
Because the COVID is continuing. The effects of COVID are continuing. It didn't just end because we got a vaccine. So I would ask you to kind of, if you wouldn't mind writing a script of what you're experiencing, so that we can look at what can we do to remove those barriers. Because that was not the intention. The intention, I think, was to make sure that all people had a chance at some of those COVID relief monies. And it wasn't intended to stop you from getting other help. So if you wouldn't mind putting together an email that kind of explains.
Okay.
Yeah, and copy me on that too, if you wouldn't mind. That would be great, because I do think you are bringing up an important point that there are a lot of unintended consequences. And so that's why I'm thinking that reaching out to Jacob, so we understand the unintended consequences. And I've had someone else give me this kind of similar story, and see what we can do to help you, connect with other resources, or help kind of navigate that and help you with that. So I'm really glad you came today, and appreciate the great questions. And really, thanks for your engagement.
Yeah, absolutely. And I plan on being more, honestly, like where I'm at, and just in my business, like it's just, we're super busy. And so getting to these meetings is hard, because it seems like, I want to go to the council meetings in Loveland, and I want to express some of the frustration and the hurdles that everyday business owners are going through. Because trust me, it's not just me. It's 9 out of 10 business owners that I know. And I know quite a few in the community, and everybody is going through some type of hurdle in some way. Yeah, there's a one-off that, you know, is selling like medical equipment and they're killing it, right? But for kind of the everyday businesses and gyms and supplement stores and companies like mine, you know, that are going through, you know, restaurants and stuff that are going through hard times.
So Zeke, you know, we have public comment every Tuesday morning with our County Commissioner Administrative Matters meeting, and you can call in. You don't have to always call in person. You can call in and make your comment. And Julissa, maybe you can send, since I don't know if Zeke can put his email, if you feel comfortable in the chat, and maybe Julissa, you could send him the link to how to get do public comment on Tuesdays, and also just, you know, email us. And we can try to pass along these questions. And there's always, if you can't get to a meeting, our meetings are televised, or I mean, recorded and are on YouTube, and you can go back and let's say you saw our schedule is on the website on the Board of County Commissioners. And so if you can't get to a meeting and you want to hear some of the updates on the ARPA funds or some business, you see that, oh, they're going to talk about this business conversation, then you can go back and watch. So if you can't go, you can at least watch, and then you can email us your questions, if that makes sense. Mm-hmm. And so, great. Well, Mayor Marsh, Zeke, we've gone a little over, but I wanted to make sure we could listen to your concerns, and I'm really glad that you raised your hand. And please come back again. We try to do these once a month on Saturdays, and I do Estes Park ones on Thursdays at noon. And then we're trying to do another one coming up here for Windsor and Berthoud here soon at I think next month or next week. So any of those community conversations, you're always welcome to attend. You don't have to always do this one for Loveland. If you can't attend that one and there's other ones that fit your schedule better, your questions are always welcome at any of these events. And if you go to the Board of County Commissioners website, and our calendar kind of lists our community conversations.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Great, thank you.
And Zeke, I would like to make sure I connect you with people at Congressman Negus's office, because he's been very open to understanding, you know, the needs and how this is affecting local businesses. So when you send me that email, I am going to forward it to his team and see, because I think they need to hear from you. And he's been very receptive and supportive.
And Zeke, I have a phone call with Congressman Negus and the senator this coming week, so I will make sure I bring this up when I talk to him one-on-one. So
okay, great. And I definitely will. If you'd like to have a conversation, or if there's another conversation you guys would like to have, I can go a little bit even deeper into like the exact effects, like what we've had to do in order to make sure that our business stays alive. And it's in 2 to 3 years, if we don't start really, really growing, we're on kind of a death wish as a business. But I would love to. I really do.
Right.
And I appreciate you receiving all the comments, even though some of them are not so good. I appreciate that.
As the mayor said before, we need to hear these questions. We need to have those conversations. So This is why we do this work, is we're trying to work hard on your behalf and find solutions. And it's not always, hey, that's great, you opened that new building. These are everyday challenges that our residents are facing, and that's why we took these jobs. We're trying to work hard and find solutions for you. So
thank you, appreciate that.
Thank you, Mayor Marsh, for being here today. Congratulations again on your election. Super excited to continue working with you. To our other attendees, I know a lot of them have left. Thank you for being here today. We really appreciate your engagement. And Julissa, thank you for helping run the forum and putting all that information in the chat and supporting us during this community conversation. And it was great to see you. We were in Estes Park last night for Dia de los Muertos, a celebration, the first one in Estes Park. And it was hundreds of people, great pozole and tamales, and it was one of the best mariachi bands I've ever heard. It was amazing. And I got my booster shot, so that was really fun. So thank you, everybody. Have a lovely weekend. Mayor Marsh, I'll look forward to our next conversation, which will be probably sooner than later. So thanks so much, everybody. Have a great weekend.